We're here to talk about America's energy security. As we transition to cleaner energy sources, we still got to make some tough decisions about opening new offshore areas for oil and gas development in ways that protect communities and protect coastlines. So today we're announcing the expansion of offshore oil and gas exploration. What wouldn't do a thing to lower gas prices is John McCain's new proposal, a proposal adopted by George Bush as well, to open up Florida's coastline to offshore drilling.
Well, there you have it. Barack Obama today, and Barack Obama on the campaign trail announcing his drilling program this week. Barack Obama hit a sensible middle ground, says the New York Times. Others say, huh? As far as I can see from the map, all of the east coast south of Delaware is open for drilling. Does nobody remember all those seagulls caked in tar? Here to talk about what is actually in the president's proposed energy plan, especially the drilling portion of it, David Roberts. He's senior staff reporter for grist.org. David, welcome to GRITtv. Glad to have you.
Hi, Laura.
What did you think? New York Times says sensible middle ground. I heard from others in my email inbox yesterday, this is exactly the wrong kind of ground to be drilling.
Well, I think the way to look at this announcement is through a political lens. I mean, the key thing to remember about this offshore drilling is that it's not going to substantially affect the nation's energy situation. It's not an energy policy that's going to make a big difference one way or the other. Actual oil won't start coming out of the ground for probably 10 years, and even once production is completely ramped up, assuming all these areas actually prove suitable and economic for drilling, and they all start drilling, even at peak production, we're talking about amounts of oil that are relative to world production tiny. They're not going to have much of an effect on the price of oil. They're not going to have any effect at all, likely, on the price of gas, maybe 1 or 2 cents a gallon in 2030 or 2040.
So why are we doing it, David? I mean, the president admitted as much. He said we're not going to drill our way to energy independence. So what are we doing? Drilling those last few drips and drabs just so nobody else will get them?
Well, I think there are a number of political considerations at play. One is that obviously as we leave healthcare behind, finally, we're entering a big fight over the comprehensive climate and energy bill that's still winding its way through the Senate. So right now we're at a very sensitive point in those negotiations, and it's crucial that at least 3 or 4 or 5 Republicans cross party lines and vote for that if it has any chance at all. So support for offshore drilling is sort of a baseline for getting Republican senators involved.
So going back and speaking to those people who were excited by Barack Obama's pledge as a campaigner that he would retain, it was a drilling ban for more than 20 years. What do you say to those who say post-healthcare, and I don't actually believe we're post-healthcare, but post-healthcare reform, the president had a whole lot of capital, and this is kind of a measly way to spend it?
Well, I don't think, I say they're political considerations. I don't think they're particularly smart political considerations. But one thing just to back up to note is that back in 2008, Bush lifted the moratorium on offshore drilling, and Congress lifted the moratorium on offshore drilling back in 2008. So actually what Obama's done with this announcement is not to open up a bunch of areas, but to actually slightly restrict what was already opened up by Bush and Congress back in 2008. He actually took several leases in the Alaskan Ocean or the Arctic Ocean out of consideration. They're not going to start drilling immediately along the Atlantic coast. There's going to be years of seismic studies, and in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, there's still a moratorium, and that will have to wait on Congress to act. So this isn't quite as bad as it looks. I'm not going to pretend that environmentalists don't have any reason to be outraged, but let me put it this way. The actual amount of drilling and oil that's going to come out of this is much less than it appears. So if it actually works, if it works to bring about comprehensive climate and energy policy, I think it will be a great a great trade to make. I mean, if it turns out we get a cap on carbon emissions out of this, it will have been an easy decision, an easy trade to make.
But any reason to believe, David, that the Republicans who have been the party of no all this time won't simply say, well, thanks for the drilling, but still no on carbon emission caps?
Well, that's what's got everybody baffled. I mean, Obama has always said, I'm willing to bend on nuclear power. I'm willing to bend on offshore drilling. I'm willing to fund, coal with carbon sequestration, all these things that are sort of anathema to environmentalists in the name of getting comprehensive policy. But what it looks like is he's giving them all they want on nukes. He's now given them what they want on offshore drilling. He hasn't demanded anything in return. He hasn't secured any commitments to vote for the bill in Congress. And frankly, I don't see any reason why, if I'm a Republican senator, having gotten what I want, what incentive do I now have to compromise?
Ouch.
I don't think anybody gets it.
David, thanks so much for joining us, giving us a lot to think about, I'm afraid. David Roberts is a senior staff writer for GRITtv.org. There's a link at our website, GRITtv.org. Go ahead, get them confused, see if we care.